1, 2, 3. I'm pushing through tonight. I'm in my kid's destroyed playroom, but former music studio, current playroom for 2 small female children. And I want to do this. You got to do it even when you necessarily are exhausted from being a school teacher. But we're going to do it. So let's go ahead and pop back into the book. This is where we were last week. And hopefully, let's make sure Ableton will make some noise for us. I keep switching up where I do this, either downstairs or up here. I gotta find one place and just stick to it, because it's so difficult to move everything from place to place. I bought a lot of like mobile stuff, but it's still, you gotta set it all up, and it's just a hindrance. All right, so I'm 1 minute in. Let me check the stream, make sure I can hear everything. Make sure when I play Ableton that I can hear that too. That should be making noise. Give me just a second. See if it comes up. Don't see it. There it is. Okay. See if it comes up. Don't see it. There it is. Okay. Now it's not capturing Ableton, so should be that. Now it's not capturing Ableton, so okay. Application capture live. There we go. That should do it. There we go. Okay, now let me see if it's making noise. Application capture live. There we go. That should do it. There we go. Okay, now let me see if it's making noise. It's not really. Okay. See if I arm it. Well, now I can hear it. Can I hear it in the stream? Okay. See if I arm it. You should be able to hear it. Yep. Okay, we're good. Can I hear it in the stream? All right, so now we're moving. We're cooking. We are cooking. See, can you see me now? Yes. You should be able to hear it. All right. Yep. So let's go. We're good. need to go to about 5 minutes past. All right. So I was at 5.2 sample files. A sample is a file that contains audio data. Live can play both uncompressed file formats like WAV, AIF, and Sound Designer 2 for Mac, and compressed file formats MP3, AAC, OGG Vorbis, always thought that was a funny name, OGG FLAC, and FLAC. Please note that not all of these file formats can be played in the Lite edition. A note on using variable bitrate VBR files. Please install QuickTime for decoding purposes if you do not already have it on your system. It can be downloaded from the Apple website. As Live plays the samples directly from disk, you can work with a large number of large samples without running into RAM memory limitations. Please note, however, that you may run into disk throughput problems if your disk is nearly full and or, on Windows systems, highly fragmented. Hard drive rotation speed can also affect disk performance. Refer to the section on managing the disk load, page 807, for more information. Okay, for some reason it is not updating my application, so I'm going to try to fix that real quick. Yeah. Application capture. I feel like that's a glitch in OBS. It'll make me... There we go. Let's try that. Okay. That looks better. All right. I think I was right here. Live can combine uncompressed mono or stereo samples of any length, sample rate, or bit depth without prior conversion. To play a compressed sample, Live decodes the sample and writes the result to a temporary uncompressed sample file. This usually happens quickly enough that you will be able to play the sample right away without waiting for the decoding process to finish. Note, when adding a long sample to a project, Live might tell you that it cannot play the sample before it has been analyzed. Please see the section on analysis, page 79, for an explanation. 5.2.1, the decoding cache. That word took me forever to know how to say. It looks like cake, cache. To save computational resources, Live keeps the decoded sample files of compressed samples in the cache. Maintenance of the cache is normally not required, as Live automatically deletes older files to make room for those that are new. You can, however, impose limits on the cache size using the File Folder Preferences Decoding Cache section. The cache will not grow larger than the maximum cache size setting, and it will always leave the minimum free space on the hard disk. Pressing the nearby cleanup button will delete all files not being used by the current Live set. Decoding cache. Let's See if we can find that. Clean up. That's it. Okay. Preferences for the decoding cache. 5.2.2 analysis files.asd. An analysis file is a little file that Live creates when a sample file is brought into the program for the first time. The analysis file contains data gathered by Live to help optimize the stretching quality, speed up the waveform display, and automatically detect the tempo of long samples. Page 179. Okay. When adding a long sample to a project, Live might tell you that it cannot play the sample before it has been analyzed. This will not happen if the sample has already been analyzed, i.e., Live finds an analysis file for this sample, or if the record/warp/launch preferences auto warp long samples preference, page 173, has been deactivated. An analysis file can also store default clip settings for the sample. Clicking the Clip Views Save button, page 159, will store the current clip settings with the sample's analysis file. The next time the sample is dragged into Live, it will appear with all its clip settings intact. This is particularly useful for retaining warp marker settings with the sample. Storing default clip settings with the analysis file is different from saving the clip as a live clip. While analysis files are a handy way to store default information about a particular sample's settings, keep in mind that you can use different settings for each clip within a live set, even if those clips refer to the same sample on disk. But if you drag a new version of the sample into a live set, Live will use the settings stored in the analysis file for the newly created clip. The analysis file's name is the same as that of the associated sample, with an added .asd extension. Live puts this analysis file in the same folder as the sample. Samples that have an .asd file are displayed like this in the browser. Samples without an ASD file look like this. The analysis files themselves do not appear in Live's browser. Note that you can suppress the creation of ASD files by turning off the Create Analysis Files option in the file folder preferences. All data, except for the default clip settings, can be created by Live if the ASD file is missing. However, this will take some time for longer samples. Okay. 5.2.3 Exporting Audio and Video. The file menu's Export Audio/Video command allows you to export Live's audio output as new samples. The resulting files can be used to burn an audio CD for listening purposes, or a data CD, which could serve as a backup of your work or be used with other digital audio applications. If your set includes video, you can also use the Export Audio Video command to export this to a new video file, which will be created in the same directory as the rendered audio files. Note, video export is not available in the Lite and Intro editions. You can also upload your exported audio files directly to your SoundCloud account. Selection options. the render dialog selection options. The export dialog's rendered track chooser offers several options for which audio signal to render. The rendered track chooser. Master, the post fader signal at Live's master output. If you are monitoring the master output, you can be sure that the rendered file will contain exactly what you hear. All individual tracks, the post fader signal at the output of each individual track, including return tracks and MIDI tracks with instruments. Live will create a separate sample for each track. All samples will have the same length, making it easy to align them in other multi-track programs. Selected tracks only. This is identical to the all individual tracks option, but only renders tracks that were selected prior to opening the export dialog. And single tracks, the post fader signal at the output of the selected track. The other selection fields determine the start time and length of the exported material. Render start sets the position at which rendering will begin, and render length determines the length of the rendered sample. Tip: a fast way to set both the render start and length values is to select the range of time in the arrangement view prior to invoking the export audio/video command. But remember, a rendered audio file contains only what you heard prior to rendering. So, for example, if you're playing back some combination of session view clips and arrangement material, then that is what will be captured in your rendered file, regardless of which view is active when you render. Rendering options. So you can render as a loop, convert to mono, normalize, create analysis file, set the sample rate. Audio rendering options. The export dialog offers several audio rendering options. This includes return and master effects. If this is activated, Live will individually render each selected track with any return tracks used by that track, as well as effects used in the master track. This is especially useful when rendering material for a live performance, or when providing stems to a mixing engineer or remix artist. Render as loop. If this is activated, Live will create a sample that can be used as a loop. For example, suppose your live set uses a delay effect. If render as loop is on, Live will go through the rendering process twice. The first pass will not actually write samples to disk, but add the specified delay effect. As the second pass starts writing audio to disk, it will include the delay tail resulting from the first pass. Convert to mono. If this is activated, Live will create a mono file instead of a stereo file. Normalize. If this is activated, the sample resulting from the render process will be normalized, i.e., the file will be amplified so that the highest peak attains the maximum available headroom. Create analysis file. If this is activated, Live will create an ASD file that contains analysis information about the rendered sample. If you intend to use the new sample in Live, check this option. Sample rate. Note that your choice of sample rate works as follows. If you select a sample rate equal to or higher than the rate you were using in your project, as set in the Audio tab of Live's preferences, Live will export in a single step at the sample rate you've chosen in the export dialog. If you export at a sample rate that is lower than your current project sample rate, Live will first export at the current project sample rate and then downsample the file in a second step using a high-quality process. Note that this may take a few moments. Upload audio to SoundCloud. If activated, a helper application will launch that will allow you to upload your exported audio file to SoundCloud. Here's the encoding options. You can encode PCM, pick the file type like WAV, bit depth, dither options, triangular, encode MP3, CBR 320. All right, so audio encoding options. You can encode PCM. If activated, a lossless audio file is created. File type, got WAV, AIFF, and FLAC formats are available for PCM export. No ALAC, Apple. Sorry. Bit depth and dither options. If you're rendering at a bit depth lower than 32-bit, choose one of the dither modes. Dithering adds a small amount of noise to rendered audio, but minimizes artifacts when reducing the bit depth. By default, triangular is selected, which is the safest mode to use if there is any possibility of doing additional processing on your file. Rectangular mode introduces an even smaller amount of dither noise, but at the expense of additional quantization error. The three power modes offer successively higher amounts of dithering, but with the noise pushed above the audible range. Note that dithering is a procedure that should only be applied once to any given audio file. If you plan to do further processing on your rendered file, it's best to render to 32-bit to avoid the need for dithering at this stage. In particular, the power modes should never be used for any material that will be sent on to a further mastering stage. These are for final output only. Please note that the power modes are not available in the intro and light editions. Encode MP3. If activated, a CBR 320 kilobytes per second MP3 file is created. It is possible to export PCM and MP3 simultaneously. If neither toggle is enabled, the export button will be disabled. It's interesting that 320 kbps MP3 is just now standard. It used to be considered such high quality, and now it's just like space is available. Video rendering options. Create video on, video encoder, MPEG-4 movie encoder settings, video rendering options. Note, video rendering is not available in the intro and light editions. In addition to settings for audio rendering, the export dialog provides additional options for rendering video. Create video. If this is activated, a video file will be created in the same directory as your rendered audio. Note that this option is only enabled if you have video clips in the arrangement view. Also, it is not possible to only render a video file. Enabling video rendering will always produce a video in addition to rendered audio. Video encoder. This chooser allows you to select the encoder to use for the video rendering. The choices you have here depend on the encoders you have installed. Video encoder settings. This button opens the settings window for the selected encoder. Note that the settings options will vary depending on the encoder you have chosen. Certain encoders have no user configurable options. In this case, the edit button will be disabled. Once you've made your selections and clicked export to begin the rendering process, audio rendering will begin. After the audio rendering is complete, the video will be rendered. Note that, depending on the encoder used, video rendering may occur in more than one pass. Live will display a progress bar that will indicate the status of the process. Unless you've specified a special window size or aspect ratio in the encoder settings, the rendered video file will play back exactly as it appeared during real-time playback in live. The video file will also contain the rendered audio. For more information about working with video in live, see the chapter on video, page 373. Real-time rendering. Normally, rendering happens as an offline process, but if your set contains an external audio effect, page 423, or external instrument, page 541, that routes to a hardware effects device or synthesizer, the rendering process is a bit different. In this case, rendering the master output happens in real time. If you render single tracks, all tracks that don't route to an external device anywhere in their signal paths will be rendered offline. Then, any tracks that do access these devices will be rendered in real time. Live will automatically trace each track's signal flow and detect if real-time rendering is necessary. You'll then be presented with several options when you start to render. Here it says, waiting for external instruments and effects to become silent. Waiting for external devices to become silent. Skip. By default, Live will wait for 10 seconds before starting a real-time render. This should allow any sound from external devices to fade out. But if you need more time, for example, if you're waiting for a long reverb tail, you can increase the wait time by typing a new number in the number box. On the other hand, if you're sure that your external devices aren't making any sound, you can speed the process along by pressing skip, which will start the render immediately. After the render is begun, the dialog changes to show a recording progress bar, rendering audio at 48,000 hertz real time. 1 CPU dropouts. Auto restart on dropouts. Real-time rendering in process. Auto restart on dropouts. Rendering in real time requires somewhat more CPU power than non-real rendering, and in some cases, dropouts, small gaps or glitches in the audio, can occur. Live detects when dropouts happen, and rendering will start again from the beginning if the auto restart option is enabled. Restart manually restarts the rendering process. Cancel stops the rendering process and deletes the partially rendered file. The number of rendering attempts, if there has been more than one, will also be listed in the dialog box. If you find that dropouts and restarts keep happening, you should close other running applications to allow more processing power for rendering. Please see the chapter on computer audio resources, page 801, for more tips on improving performance. 5.3 MIDI files. A MIDI file contains commands that prompt MIDI-compatible synthesizers or instruments, such as Live Simpler, to create specific musical output. MIDI files are exported by hardware and software MIDI sequencers. Importing MIDI files into Live works differently than with samples. MIDI file data is incorporated into the Live set, and the resulting MIDI clips lose all reference to the original file. MIDI files appear with a special icon in the browser. A MIDI file in the browser. You can import MIDI files by using the browser or the Create Menus Import MIDI File command. Note that when using the Import MIDI File command in the arrangement view, the file will be inserted at the insert marker position. When using the command in the session view, the file will be inserted in the currently selected clip slot. Exporting MIDI files, 5.3.1. Live MIDI clips can be exported as standard MIDI files. To export a MIDI clip, use the File menu's Export MIDI Clip command. This command will open a File Save dialog, allowing you to choose the location for your new MIDI file. Exporting a MIDI file is different from saving the clip as a live clip. (5.4) Live clips. Individual audio or MIDI clips can be exported to disk in the live clip format for easy retrieval and reuse in any project. Audio clips only contain references to samples on disk rather than the audio data itself. So they are very small, which makes it easy to develop and maintain your own collection. To save a clip from the Open Live set to disk, simply drag it to the Places section of the browser and drop it into the current project or any user folder. For audio clips, Live will manage the copying of the clip's sample into this new location based on the selection in the Collect Files on Export Chooser, page 103. You can then type in a new name for the clip or confirm the one suggested by Live with Enter. A live clip in the browser. Live clips are a great way of storing your ideas for later use or development, as they save not only the original clip, including all its clip and envelope settings, but also the original track's devices. In order to recreate a live clip's device chain, either drag it into a track containing no clips or devices, or drag it into the space in the session or arrangement view containing no tracks. Note that live clips that are imported into tracks already containing devices or clips will appear with their clip settings but not their devices. You could, for instance, drop a baseline live clip on an existing track that drives a bass instrument rather than creating a new track. Clips belonging to any live sets already on disk are also live clips. Please see the section on merging sets, page 89, for more on this topic. Note that storing default clip settings with a samples analysis file is different from saving a live clip. The default clip in the ASD file annotates the sample with sensible default values, warp, gain, and pitch settings, so that it will play in a defined way when it is added to a set. Live clips, on the other hand, are stored on disk as separate musical ideas. For example, you could create a number of variations from the same audio clip by using different warp, pitch, envelope, and effect settings and store them all as separate live clips. In the browser, you could then independently sort and preview these clips even though they are all referring to the same source sample. 5.5 Live Sets. The type of document that you create and work on in Live is called a live set. Think of this as a single song. Sets must be saved inside projects so that Live can keep track of and manage all of the various components of the live set. Live clips, device presets, any samples used, etc. 5.5.1 Creating, opening, and saving sets. Use the File menu's New Live Set command to create new live sets, and the Open Live Set or Open Recent Set command to open existing ones. In the browser, you can double-click or press Enter on a live set to open it. The File menu's Save Live Set command saves the current live set exactly as it is, including all clips and settings. You can use the Save Live Set As command to save the current live set under a different name and or in a different directory location, or the Save a Copy command to create a copy of the current live set with a new name and or new directory location. 5.5.2 Merging Sets. Live makes it easy to merge sets, which can come in handy when combining work from different versions or pieces. To add all tracks, except the return tracks, from one live set into another, drag the set from the browser into the current set and drop it onto any track title bar or into the drop area next to or below the tracks. The tracks from the drop set will be completely reconstructed, including their clips in the session and arrange view, their devices, and their automation. Session view drop area for importing live sets. Arrangement view drop area for importing live sets. If you prefer to import individual tracks from a set, you can unfold the live set in the browser just as if it were a folder. Unfolding a set to reveal its contents. You can now drag the individual tracks and drop them as described at the beginning of this section. Any grooves, page 229, that were saved with your set are also available as a folder within the unfolded set. If you only want the device chain, e.g. a device and its audio or MIDI effects from another set, you can drag in the device's icon from the set in the browser. I think it's e.g. example, for example. IE is for instance. I can't remember. I always got to look that one up. The device's icon in an expanded live set. You can also drag group tracks, page 272, and nested group tracks from Live's browser. Group tracks can be expanded in the browser, allowing you to load an individual track from within. In addition to unfolding sets, you can further unfold the tracks within the sets to access the individual session view clips that were used on that track. Revealing the session view clips contained in a set. You can browse, preview, and import session view clips from the set as if they had been stored as individual live clips. This means that any live set can serve as a pool of sounds for any other, suggesting creative reuse and crossover. 5.5.3 Exporting session clips as new sets. You can export a selection of session view clips as a new live set by dragging them to the browser. To export a set, first click and drag or use the Shift or Control Window Alt Mac modifiers to select more than one session view clip. Then simply drag and drop the clips into the current project or any user folder where you can either confirm Live's suggested name or type in one of your own. 5.5.4 Template Sets. Use the file menu Save Live Set as Default Set command to save the current live set as the default template. Live will use these settings as the initialized default state for new live sets. You can use this to pre-configure your multi-channel input-output setup, preset devices like EQs and compressors in every track, computer key mappings, and MIDI mappings. Note that any live set in Live's browser can be set as the default live set via the Set Default Live Set context menu entry. This is actually really useful, this part. Under the file menu, Save Live Set as Default Set. Save live set as default set right there. So that's so like all your key mappings will work when you start a new song. So you don't have to constantly remap MIDI, which I've done the whole time I've used Live. So that's worth reading all this just to find that out. Note that any live set in Live's browser can be set as the default. Okay, via the set default live set context menu entry. In addition to this master default template, note that any live set in Live's browser can be set as the default live set via the set default live set context menu entry. In addition to this master default template, you can create additional template sets for different types of projects, each with their own unique configuration of tracks, devices, etc. To do this, save the current live set using the File menu's Save Live Set as Template command. Any sets saved as a template will appear in the browser's Templates category and the Templates folder in the user library. Note that the user library's Templates folder is automatically created the first time a template set is saved. These sets will then function as templates. They will load with the configuration you saved, but with the name untitled.als, ready to be used as a new set. Under user library, templates, multiple template sets in the user library. 5.5.5 Viewing and changing a live set's file references. To view a list of the files referenced by the current live set, choose the Manage Files command from the File menu. Click the Manage Set button, and then click the View Files button. Live will display one line for each file used by the live set. To list all clips or instruments in the live set where the file is actually used, click the triangle to expand the line. Here is what you can do. Replace a file. Dragging a file from the browser and dropping it on an entry in the list makes the live set reference the new file instead of the old one. For samples used in audio clips, Live retains the clip properties. The warp markers are kept if the new sample has the same or greater length as the old sample, and discarded otherwise. Please note that replacing a sample will change all clips in your set that reference this sample. Every entry in the file reference list is a drop target for files. Hot swap files. Using the hot swap button at the left-hand side of each entry, you can quickly browse through alternatives for the file that is currently being referenced. This is like dragging files here, only quicker. The file reference list's hot swap button. Edit a reference sample. Manage file. Manage files. Is that it? Did I pick it? Manage set button. I don't see anything pop up. Maybe I don't have any files in this one. I'm just going to keep reading it. This has been playing the whole time. I can't remember the last thing I read. I remember reading hot swap files. The file reference lists hot swap button, okay? Edit a reference sample using an external application, which can be chosen in the Preferences File Folder tab. Clicking the Edit button will open the reference sample in the external application. The sample will remain offline as long as the edit switch is engaged. For samples used in audio clips, the current set of warp markers is retained only if the sample length retains the same as before. Sample length remains the same as before. Okay. Note that the edit button is only available for samples, not for other types of files, such as Macs for live devices. Page 633. The file reference lists edit switch. View a file's location. The location column states if a file is missing, page 100, or if it resides in your user library, a project, or somewhere else, external. When unfolded, the entry shows the specific places in the set where the file is used. File reference lists location column. 5.6 Live projects. A live project is a folder containing live related files that belong together. Consider, for example, work on a piece of music. You start with an empty live set. You record audio and thereby create new sample files. You drag in samples from collections. You save different versions of the live set along the way so that you can go back and compare. Perhaps you also save live clips or device presets that belong to this particular musical piece. The project folder for this live project will maintain all the files related to this piece of music, and Live's file manager will provide the tools you need to manage them. Page 99. 5.6.1 Projects and Live Sets. When you save a live set under a new name or in a new folder location, Live will create a new project folder and store the live set there, unless you were saving the live set into an existing live project. Let's look at an example to illustrate this process. We've recorded some audio into a new live set. We now save the live set under the name Tango on the desktop. The desktop is available in the browser because we have previously added it as a user folder. Here is the result as displayed by the live browser. A live set and its recordings in a live project folder. The project folder, Tango Project, contains the live set tango.als and a samples folder, which in turn contains a recorded folder with 2 samples in it. Note that the current project is also indicated in the title bar of Live's application window. Okay. Next, we record another track into our project. We save the modified version of the live set under a new name so that we do not lose the previous version. Accepting the Save As command's default suggestion, we store the new version of the song in the Tango project folder. A second version of the live set has been added to the project. The Tango project now contains 2 live sets, and its samples/recorded folder contains the samples used by both of them. And now for something completely different. We choose the file menu's new live set command and record a samba tune. As this has nothing to do with our Tango dabblings, we decided to save it outside the Tango project folder, say on the desktop. Live creates a new project folder named Samba Project next to Tango Project. A new project was added next to Tango Project. So far, we have seen how to create live projects and save versions of live sets into them. How do we open a project? Simply by opening any of its contained live sets. Double-clicking Tango with piano.als opens that set and the associated project as displayed in Live's title bar. Let's suppose that in the course of our work on Tango with piano.als, we get sidetracked. The piece evolves towards something entirely different, and we feel that it should live in a project of its own. So we save as under a new name and in some location outside the current project, say the desktop. A new project was added by saving a live set outside its original project. Note that the new project folder has no samples folder yet. Electro with piano.als is still referencing the piano sample from the original Tango project. There's nothing wrong with this except for when the Tango project is moved away or deleted. Then Electro with piano.als will be missing samples. You can prevent this by collecting external files, page 102, even after the fact. Live's tools for searching missing files, page 100, can help solve this problem. There's actually no need to keep a project's live set exactly one level below the project itself. Within a project folder, you can create any number of subfolders and move files around to organize them as desired, although you may need to use the file manager to teach the project about the changes you've made, page 106. In general, Live will do what it can to prevent situations such as orphaned, project-less live sets, which have the potential of confusing both the user and Live's file management tools. It cannot, however, control situations in which sets or files are moved out of order and become disorganized via the Explorer, Windows/Finder Mac. A note for users of older Live versions: Live does not allow overwriting live sets that were created by older major versions to prevent compatibility problems. Instead, you will be requested to save as. Doing this will ensure that the newly saved live sets reside in project folders. 5.6.2 Projects and Presets. By default, new instrument and effect presets are stored in your current project. At times, however, it may make more sense to save a preset to another folder or to your user library so that you can access them from other projects. You can drag a preset between folders after saving it, page 307, or simply drag the title bar of the device over a folder in the sidebar. Wait for the content pane to open, and then drop it into the content pane, adding it to the folder. When saving presets that contain samples to a new location, Live may copy the samples depending on the settings in the Collect Files on Export chooser in the library preferences. You can then type in a new name for the device or confirm the one suggested by Live with Enter. 5.6.3 Managing Files in a Project. Live's File Manager offers several convenient tools for managing projects. Once you've opened a live set that is part of the project you wish to manage, choose the Manage Files command from the File menu, and then click the Manage Project button. The File Manager will present you with an overview of the project's contents and tools for locating files that the project is missing, collecting external files into the project, page 102, listing unused files in the project, page 104, packing a project in pack format, page 105. 5.7 Locating missing files. If you load a live set, live clip, or preset that references files which are missing from their referenced locations, Live's status bar, located at the bottom of the main screen, will display a warning message. Clips and instrument sample slots that reference missing samples will appear marked offline, and Live will play silence instead of the missing samples. Live's file manager offers tools for repairing these missing links. Click on the status bar message to access these. This is actually a shortcut for choosing the Manage Files command from the File menu, clicking the Manage Set button, and then clicking the Locate button found in the Missing Files section. The File Manager will present you with a list of the missing files and associated controls. Replace files. One of the reference files are missing. Automatic search, search folder. The File Manager's list of missing files. 5.7.1 Manual Repair. To manually fix a broken file reference, locate the missing file in the browser, drag it over to the File Manager, and drop it on the respective line in the list of missing files. Note that Live will not care if the file you offer is really the file that was missing. 5.7.2 Automatic Repair. Live offers a convenient automatic search function for repairing file references. To send Live on a search, click the Automatic Search section's Go button. To reveal detailed options for guiding the automatic search function, click the neighboring triangular shape button. Okay. Looks about like last time. I think they're talking about clicking that. Automatic repair options in the File Manager. Search folder includes a user-defined folder as well as any subfolders in the search. To select the folder, click the associated Set Folder button. Search project includes this Sets Project folder in the search. Search library includes the Live library in the search. For each missing file, the automatic search function may find any number of candidates. Let's consider the following cases. No candidate found. You can choose another folder and try again, or locate the sample manually. One candidate found. Live accepts the candidate and considers the problem solved. Several candidates found. Live requires your assistance. Click the hot swap button, i.e. the leftmost item, in every line of the list of missing files. To have the browser present the candidates in hot swap mode. You can now double-click the candidates in the browser to load them as the music plays if you like. 5.8 Collecting External Files. To prevent a live set from containing broken file references, Live provides the option of collecting, i.e. copying, them into the Sets project folder. This is accomplished via the File Manager. Choose the Manage Files command from the File menu. Click the Manage Set button. Unfold the triangular shaped Fold button in the External Files section. Options for collecting external files. Separated by location. Other projects, the user library, installed by factory packs and elsewhere. Sample collections from external drives, for example. The File Manager provides a file count and the associated disk space used. A show button that will list the files in the browser. A yes/no toggle for engaging or disengaging collection. Note: make sure to confirm your choices by clicking the File Manager's Collect and Save button. This is stuff I would read, but I think I would only remember when I started running into problems. Like, well, where did that file go? Or I was transferring to another computer and trying to reset up a project or something. The File Manager's Collect and Save button. The File menu's Collect All and Save command is a shortcut
that collects and saves all external files referenced by the current set, including those from Live's core library or other installed packs. Note that this can cause a lot of copying, especially if your Live set uses large multi-sample collections. 5.8.1 Collect files on export. When you save live clips, device presets, or tracks by dragging them into the browser, Live manages the copying of associated files based on the selection made in the Collect Files on Export chooser in the library preferences. This chooser provides the following options. Always, the default setting, will copy files into the same folder as the clip, preset, or track without notification. When Ask is selected, Live provides a dialog box with options for copying files. Never means that files will not be copied when saving. 5.9 Aggregated locating and collecting. Instead of having to deal with problems while you are in a creative mode, you might prefer putting aside some dedicated housekeeping time to solve all the problems in one go. Using Live's file manager, you can find missing files and collect external files not only for the current Live set, but also for the user library. Choose the Manage Files command from the File menu, then click the Manage User Library button. The current Live project, choose the Manage Files command from the File menu, then click the Manage Project button. Any Live project, right-click Windows, Control-click Mac on a project in the browser's Content pane, and choose the Manage Project option. Any selection of Live sets, Live clips, Live presets, right-click Windows, Control-click Mac on the respective items in the browser, and choose the Manage Files command. Remember to click the Collect and Save button at the bottom of the File Manager when you are finished. Otherwise, your changes will be discarded. 5.10 Finding unused files. Live's File Manager can find the unused files in a project for you. You can then review them and decide to delete them individually or collectively. When searching for unused files, Live will inspect each file in a project folder, checking if it is referenced by any of the Live sets, Live clips, or device presets in the project. If not, the file is regarded as unused, even if other projects or programs still use it. To find the unused files for the currently open project, choose the Manage Files command from the File menu. Click the Manage Project button, and then click on the triangular-shaped Fold button next to Unused Files to access a summary and the Show button. Clicking the Show button makes the browser list the unused files. There, you can preview samples, page 75, and delete them if you like. Note that you can also find the unused files from the library. Choose the Manage Files command from the File menu, then click the Manage Library button, and then see the Unused Files section. Last but not least, you can find the unused files for all projects found in a specific folder and its subfolders. Right-click Windows, Control-click Mac on a folder in the browser and choose the Manage Projects command. Then see the Unused Files section. Live inspects each project individually and labels a file unused even if another project in the same folder does use that file. To prevent losses, you may want to first collect the files into their respective projects and then purge the projects of unused files. 5.11 Packing projects into packs. Live's File Manager provides the option for packing a Live project in pack format for convenient archiving and transfer. To do this, choose the Manage Files command from the File menu, click the Manage Project button, and then click on the triangular shaped fold button next to packing. Click the Create Pack button to bring up a File Select dialog where you can specify the name and location of a new pack file. Creating a new pack from a project does not affect the project. If you want the project deleted, you can delete it using the browser. Live employs lossless compression techniques to minimize the file size of packs. Depending on the audio materials in a project, this saves up to 50% in file size. To unpack a pack, i.e., to restore the original live project, double-click the pack file .alp, drag it into the live main window, or locate it via the file menu's install pack command. All right. Next week, we will start at 5.12 File Management FAQs. Frequently asked questions. We just did an hour and 5 minutes. Let's see if I can come back up here in the dark. The sun has set on my grievances. Where is my mouse? Where is my mouse? There it is. Ah, here I am in the darkness. Yes, yes, yes. You can kind of see me. Well, if I've inspired you at all to follow along with Ableton, you can support me. There's a bunch of links down in the description, but you don't have to. I love you. This is mostly just for me to learn, and I'll see you next time. God bless you, everybody.